All right, YouTube creators, listen up here. If you're having financial problems or stressing about money, I'm here to tell you it has absolutely nothing to do with how much money you're making on YouTube. It's not about getting one more brand deal. It's not about getting your views up. It's not about any of that stuff. What it's about is what happens when your YouTube money hits your bank account. And I'm not here to tell you that you're buying too many lattes. What I am here to tell you is that there's a simple 4-step process that YouTube creators can follow once that money hits your bank account that's going to significantly reduce your stress and headache that is resulting from money problems. And that's because what it does is it puts you in control of your money instead of the other way around. Now, this is the exact process I personally follow along with dozens of other creators that I work with. It's worked for us for years, and so I'm pretty confident that you're going to find something here that is going to significantly help the way that you deal with money. So let's dive right on into step number 1. So step number 1 is to pay yourself first. And I'm sure you've probably heard this before, maybe in like a self-help book or something, but the concept here is pretty simple, okay? The concept is that you deserve to get paid first, right? You're putting in all this work, you're putting all this sweat equity into making these YouTube videos that are probably pretty good if you're making some serious money on the platform. But a lot of times what we do is we basically just say, okay, I'll take whatever money's left over at the end of the month. Okay, I'm going to spend some money on videos. I'm going to spend some money on software. I'm going to spend some money on freelancers or whatever. And then at the end of the month, whatever's left over, I'll just take that. And so that's what most YouTube creators do. Okay. And then the end of the month comes around and there's a lot less money left over than you thought. Okay. And so that's where the concept of paying yourself first comes into play. Okay. Because if you pay yourself first, then you can theoretically make sure you are getting paid what you deserve and then make the rest of the money work for whatever else you need to do. Okay. And we're going to talk about exactly how to do that. Okay. So basically what you're doing here is you're taking advantage of something called Parkinson's law. And this law basically states that the stuff you have will expand to fill the space that you give it. Okay. And a lot of times this is applied to like time. Okay. So if you give yourself 60 minutes to work on a project, you're going to take all 60 of those minutes to work on the project. If you give yourself 30 minutes, you find a way to get it done in 30 minutes, theoretically. Okay. Same thing is true with money. Okay. Because if you have, say you make $30,000 on YouTube this month. Okay. You got 30 grand in your bank account from YouTube this month. If you've just got that money sitting there and then you go into the next month, you've got 30 grand as your budget, you're going to find a way to spend 30 grand on videos, on software, on different things. Okay. You're going to find a way to spend that money. But if you instead take your money off the top and now you're left with, say you take 10K off the top, you're left with $20,000, you're going to find a way to make that $20,000 work. I mean, you're a YouTube creator, you're pretty resourceful. So you're going to find a way to get by with that 20 grand in expenses. And in all honesty, this is typically less of a problem than most people think it's going to be in terms of like creators think, well, I need to spend all this money to make these videos that I want to make. But in a lot of cases, I mean, creativity is really amplified in a lot of cases by putting constraints on your different factors. So a lot of times I find with the people that I work with, like when they actually have these constraints in place and they have a lower budget, they get more creative and their videos actually get a lot more, honestly, just entertaining to watch and really just valuable to their audience. So something to think about there. So step 1 is to pay yourself first. Now, how do you actually do that? Okay, what are the mechanics of paying yourself first? Because that's kind of the theory. How do we actually do it? Well, the best way to do this is going to be to have 2 separate bank accounts. Okay, and don't worry, this isn't going to be too confusing. Okay, you just need a business checking account and a personal checking account. Maybe you've already got these set up at this point. That's great. Okay, the business checking account is where your YouTube money is going to flow into. So setting up a business checking account, it's really easy. I already have a video up about that, so you can go check that out. But basically, you'll set this thing up. You'll set all your YouTube money to go into this account. Your YouTube money, your sponsorships, all that money, it's going into this one business checking account. Then what you're going to do, every single month, you're going to take your cut off the top. It's going to go straight into your personal checking account. That's all you got to do. It's super duper simple. Now, if you don't have a business checking account set up yet, in the description below, I'll link up my personal favorite choice. It's completely free to use, no fees, no minimums, none of that stuff. So you can check that out down there. But the concept, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to set up both these accounts and then you're going to set a certain percentage, okay? And that percentage is going to come right off the top every single month, go straight into your checking account. For me personally, that percentage is 50%, okay? So 50% of the revenue that is generated from this YouTube channel goes straight into my checking account, okay? And for me, that percentage, it might be a little bit high, it might sound a little high to you, and that's because my YouTube channel is very low budget, okay? Like as you can see, we just have the simple setup and I don't spend a lot of money. I have an editor, but that's the main expense, it's the editor, it's a couple pieces of software, Adobe, but that's pretty much it, so I don't have that much in expenses. I'm not making these extravagant Mr. Beast videos, so I can afford to give myself 50% of that money, use the other 50% to reinvest back into content. Now, the process is going to be slightly different if you have an S corporation as your tax structure for your business. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But personally, my YouTube business is set up as an LLC right now. It's probably going to transition into an S corp this year in 2021. But for now, it's set up as an LLC, so that's the general process. If you have an S corp set up, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to have a whole video coming soon on how S Corps work in terms of taxes, paying yourself, all that good stuff. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's dive into step number 2. So now that you've got yourself paid, it is time to start thinking about Uncle Sam, okay? Because Uncle Sam, he's your partner in business. If you are a United States citizen or living in the US or whatever, Uncle Sam is your business partner. He wants his cut. And so now it's time to think about Uncle Sam, because a lot of creators, they get started on YouTube and they have no idea what to do when it comes to taxes. And these tend to blindside a ton of creators. So one of the main places they sneak up on newer creators is the concept of quarterly taxes, okay? Because as a creator, you actually are likely required to pay your taxes on a quarterly basis, so 4 times a year instead of just once on April 15th. And I have a whole video about that. You can check that out up here. That'll kind of walk you through the quarterly tax paying process if you're not familiar with that. But basically, if you're making honestly over like 10 grand on YouTube, you're probably required to pay quarterly taxes. Now, with those quarterly taxes, okay, quarterly taxes isn't a specific type of tax. It's just the concept that you have to pay them 4 times a year. The type of tax that you actually have to pay, there's 2 of them, okay? You're gonna have to pay income taxes and you're gonna have to pay self-employment taxes because you are self-employed as a YouTube creator. I've got separate videos on both of those, both income taxes for creators as well as self-employment taxes for creators. So you should definitely watch both those videos if you are at all confused about how either of those taxes work, especially self-employment taxes, because those ones really do sneak up on people, okay? A lot of creators don't even know that there's a thing called self-employment taxes. There is, and they're about 15% of your profits. So definitely keep that in mind. So when you start combining these with your income taxes, especially like if you got state income taxes on top of that, you got 3 different kinds of taxes you're paying, this can get pretty high pretty fast. So that's why it's really important to start planning for this stuff ahead of time, so you don't just show up on one of your quarterly estimated tax payment dates and you're like scrambling to come up with like $10,000 to pay the government, okay? So we don't want that to happen. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start planning for taxes ahead of time. This is exactly how we're gonna do that. So what you're gonna wanna do here, okay, and stick with me, is you're gonna wanna open another bank account, okay? And I know at this point we're at 3 bank accounts. I've got way more than that, but you only really need 3, okay? I'm not gonna tell you to open any more bank accounts throughout the rest of this video, so don't worry. You got your personal checking account, your business checking account, and now you're going to want a tax savings account, okay? And the concept here is going to be very similar to paying yourself, okay? You're going to set a certain percentage that's going to go straight into your tax account right off the top, okay? So you're getting your money in your bank account, your business checking account, you're taking a percentage off sending it to your personal account, you're taking a percentage off sending it to your tax account, okay? That's the process. That's step 1 and step 2. Now, in terms of setting that actual tax percentage, for me personally, tends to hover about 30%, okay? But it's going to really depend on the margins of your business that you run and as well as your tax bracket, okay? And I have a full video on how tax brackets work. They're a little bit confusing if you've never dealt much with tax before, so you might want to check that out up here. But in general, it's good to set aside about 30 to maybe even 40% in that tax account, because there's no penalty for overshooting. Basically, you're just putting this money in this tax savings account so that when your quarterly payments do roll around, you've got a whole host of money over here that you can use to pay the federal government. Now, if you've got extra money in there, great, okay? Then you can just either take that out, pay it to yourself, or you can keep it in there for the next tax payment and just put less in there over the next couple months. So that's kind of the general process here. And if you're thinking like, really, do I really need another bank account here? Okay, you've already told me to open 2 bank accounts. A third one just seems a little bit excessive, okay? Here's kind of the rationale behind it, okay? When you're working a job, when you're an employee, your employer is withholding money for you out of every single paycheck. Every 2 weeks, you'll look on your pay stub and you'll see, okay, here goes my income taxes for my federal, my state, my Social Security, my Medicare, okay? All of that is getting, boom, sent off to the government on your behalf. You never even see that money. It never even feels like your money, okay? Say you're making 25 bucks an hour, but you're getting like 8 bucks an hour taken and given to the government, okay? That $8 per hour, you never see that. It's never in your bank account. It never even feels like it's your money, because it's not. It's the government's money, okay? And the same thing is true with your business, but it doesn't feel that way, okay? Because when you get 30 grand in your bank account as a YouTuber, you think you have 30 grand to spend. You don't, okay? Because a portion of that is going to Uncle Sam, whether you like it or not. So that's why it's really important to kind of set up this like pseudo withholdings for yourself as a YouTuber, okay? Because you don't have the luxury. I mean, in some cases it's a luxury, in some cases it's not, of having withholdings out of your paychecks, okay? YouTube's not withholding any money for you, but if you are able to withhold for yourself, put that in a separate account. What I do is a separate account with a separate bank entirely, okay? This is not where my business checking account or my personal checking account are. It's a totally separate bank. I only log into this bank 4 times a year, my 4 quarterly tax payments, okay? Other than those 4 times, I'm never in this bank account. I have no idea how much money is in there, and I'm kind of just crossing my fingers once a quarter, logging in there and being like, okay, do I have enough for my taxes? Yes or no? If I don't, let's find some extra money. If I do, great, let's pay my taxes. So that's the process, okay? And having that separate bank account, like I said, is basically like you're withholding from yourself. And what I like as well is my savings account that I use, it's a high yield savings account. So what that means is I'm earning interest on the money that's sitting in there. So I'm putting thousands of dollars into this account every quarter, and it's earning interest interest for me. So hopefully by the time my tax payments are due, there's a little bit more money in there than I initially deposited. So I'll have a link down below in the description as well for my topic on that. Again, totally free, no fees, whatever. So you can definitely check that out. But I would say if you can get a high yield savings account, like I said, that's going to be the best bet for you because it's going to be actually earning a little bit of money for you. At this day and age, I mean, with interest rates as low as they are, it's not going to be that significant, but it's still nice to get a little bonus on that money if you can. All right, so now we've paid you, we've paid the government. Now it's time to pay future you, okay? And hear me out here. So step 3 is to invest. And I know invest, it's not a very sexy word. You hear the word invest, you think it's boring, you think it's dumb, or you might think it's Bitcoin. All of those things are incorrect, okay? So let's talk about investing as a YouTube creator. Well, I hate to say it, but the life cycle of a YouTube creator is limited, okay? You're likely not gonna be making videos on YouTube into your 70s. If that's what you want, like all the more power to you, but in all likelihood, it's probably not gonna happen. So it's a really smart idea to start planning for future you right now, because one of the great things about YouTube, okay, it's given so many young people the potential to make a ridiculous amount of money in their teens, in their 20s. Like our parents, their parents, like they have no concept of how much 20-year-olds are able to make on the internet these days. And so because of that, you're really able to, if you play your cards right and you think about future you, okay, not just present day you, but also future you, you're able to honestly, like you can set yourself up. There are so many online creators here, not just like the Charli D'Amelio's, Mr. Beast of the world, but so many creators that have the potential to set themselves up for life. Okay, we're talking for life by the age of like 24, 25 years old if they play their cards right. Okay, and so I want to encourage you to start thinking that way, because if you do, you could literally be set for life by 25 years old, wouldn't have to worry about money for the rest of your life. Okay, that could potentially be like 100 years at the rate things are going. You know, you'd have 1/5 of your life you thought about money, the other 4/5, 80% of your life, you don't even have to think about money. Okay, and so that's why it's really, really important as a YouTube creator. Like you have all this income potential, there's also all this new spending potential that you have to really inflate your lifestyle. But if you are able to think about future you at least a little bit, we'll talk about how much, but think about future you a little bit, it can really go a long way. So now the specific amount and the ways in which you invest are going to differ based on how old you are. I mean, some creators are obviously older than others, but how old you are, what your goals are, what your time horizon is, how long you think you're going to be doing YouTube, all that stuff. But in general, a pretty solid rule of thumb to shoot for is if you can invest, or at least like pay to future you 15 to 20% of your income. Okay, and I'm not talking 15 to 20% of the entire stack. I'm talking 15 to 20% of the cut that you took for yourself. Okay, you paid yourself off the top. If you can take 15 to 20% of that cut and invest that for the future, you literally do have the potential to set yourself up for life, okay? And obviously the higher you make that percentage, the easier it's going to be to set yourself up for life, the higher amount of spending you're gonna be able to afford throughout the rest of your life. But like it literally all it takes is like 20% off the top can really set you up for life in your 20s. It's crazy, okay? Most people don't realize this, but the thing with investing is you have like 2 ingredients, okay? You have time and you have money. And if you're young, you have both time, and if you're a YouTuber, money. And if you've got both of those things on your side, it's really quite a thing what compound interest can do for you. So really thinking about giving future you that 20% cut of your pay, it's really going to add up in the long run. I really can't emphasize that enough. And it really has the potential to save you from that commission-based insurance salesman job that a lot of YouTube creators and professional athletes end up in, because like the life cycle of a YouTube creator and a professional athlete are honestly very similar in terms of your earnings, okay? Because it goes from earning nothing, okay? You're a college student earning nothing as a professional athlete, and then boom, you're in the NFL, you're making millions of dollars, you sign a contract for millions of dollars. Kind of similar stuff on YouTube. You know, most people go from making pretty much nothing on the internet to making a lot of money very quickly. And then a lot of times they peak out in about 2 or so years. And then throughout the next couple of years, they're kind of trickling down to the point where they're not making quite as much anymore. And so if you're able to really take advantage on the way up of that, it's really something. But if you look at the kind of the life cycle of many of these professional athletes that end up going broke, I mean, like they sign a contract for $30 million, and then you flash forward 2 or 3 years, they have nothing to show for it, okay? I don't want that to happen to you, okay? I do not want that to happen to you. And so that's why it's really important to think about this stuff early on, because it's really easy when the money starts coming in to get the money to start going out. But I tell you what, future you is really gonna thank you when they don't have to get that insurance salesman position. But let's talk about how to actually do it, okay? How do you invest as a YouTube creator? Well, there's a ton of different ways to do it. And for fear of getting sued, I'm not gonna give you any specific investment advice in this video. This is all just information, okay? But if you can build a diversified portfolio of assets, future you is gonna be like, wow, I appreciate appreciate you, man. And so basically what that means is just not putting all your eggs in one basket, okay? Diversified just means you had a couple different baskets with a few eggs in each basket, okay? And so the key here is to think about the long term with time-tested assets. So these are things like stocks and real estate, okay? These are the two most popular types of asset classes that YouTube creators tend to invest in, and for good reason. You know, they've both been around for a very long time. Now, I want to stress that the goal with investing is not big returns and big risk, okay? That's what your YouTube channel is for. Your YouTube channel is for taking those big risks and for making those big returns. What investing is for is to create a slow and steady foundation that's going to kind of grow in the background while you continue to do YouTube, okay? Because you don't want your investing to take up all of your time, attention, energy, whatever. Like, that is so much better spent on YouTube, okay? So you want to be focusing on YouTube. You want to take that investing stuff, simplify it, streamline it as much as possible, and just really know that it's growing for you in the background while you can put all of your time, energy, attention into actually creating the most high quality videos you can. And so if your investing plan right now is just pump all your money in Bitcoin, I might encourage you to reconsider that, okay? Think about building a diversified portfolio of assets that have been around for a long time that you can just put in the background. Because like, if you're investing in Bitcoin and you're freaking out every single day when the price goes up, price goes down, that's not good for your mental health. That's not good for allowing you to focus on your YouTube videos, okay? And so your time is best spent on YouTube, not on trying to figure out what the next altcoin is that's going to blow up, okay? So really think about investing for the long term in stuff that's been around for a long time. And so that brings us to step 4. This is most YouTubers' favorite part, and this is to spend it all, okay? This is where you spend everything that you got left over, okay? Because at this point, what you've basically done, you had that business checking account. You took off money for you, present day you, and future you, okay? That slice goes to present day you and future you. The next slice goes to the government. Everything that's left is your budget, okay? And you can spend that on whatever you want for your YouTube videos, okay? You can give it away to your subscribers. You can buy things. You can reinvest in your setup. You can hire people. You can do anything you want with this money. And so that's kind of the best part, okay, is because you don't have to do any kind of like mental accounting, mental gymnastics to figure out how much money you can spend on which things, okay? And that's where a lot of people get thrown off when it comes to personal finances. Is they're trying to do all this mental gymnastics, where in reality what they do is if they just set up a couple different bank accounts like we talked about, then they can see in each bank account, this is the money that I have to spend on this. This is the money I have to spend on that and that. And just makes things so much easier, because you're like, okay, here's my budget. This is what I can work with. Parkinson's law is going to come into play, and you're going to figure out how to spend all that money, but you're going to get to the end of the month and you're not going to realize that you didn't set aside any money for yourself or for the government, because that just happened right away. Now, a lot of creators might think from the get-go that this seems like a really restricting thing to do. And so what I've found, and the creators that I work with have found, is that honestly, it's kind of the opposite, okay? Like I said before, constraints really do lead to creativity in a lot of different ways. And so when you're able to do this, one, it just takes your stress levels down, but two, it makes you get more creative, because you're like, okay, here's my budget, here's what I got to work with. But it's freeing, because you're like, okay, I can spend literally all of this money. I know that everything else is already taken care of. And so I can just blow this money on whatever I want to blow it on, and life will be good, okay? So it is freeing in a lot of ways, and it really just takes away all that kind of mental math that you're probably doing in your head right now that's stressing you out and making you have all these money problems. And that's because literally all you have to do with this system is look at your bank account. If you have the money to buy something, you buy it. If you don't, you don't. And it's super, super simple. So again, if you think that making more money is the solution as a YouTube creator, if you're stressed out about money, I'm going to say, think again. I do not think that is going to help you at all, okay? Because if you just add more fuel to the fire's just going to get bigger and bigger, and it's not really going to help the underlying issue of what happens when your money actually hits your bank account. That is where the issue is. It's not the money that you're spending. It's when the money comes in, what you're actually doing with it. So if you're able to take money right off the top, pay yourself, pay future you, pay the IRS, I'm really confident that you're going to feel a lot better about your personal finances as a creator, which is super important, because if you're stressing out about all this stuff, again, it's harder to focus on actually creating really, really good videos, which is the whole point of what you're doing, and is what's going to ensure that income stays consistent for as long as possible and continues to grow for as long as possible. Now, you definitely don't have to follow my 4-step process to the T. I mean, this is just what I personally use and what I help other people use. But I would say if your current system is not working, you should probably change something, okay? Because if you keep doing what you're currently doing, you're going to keep getting the results that you're currently getting. If you don't like those results, you should probably change it up. Now, the next thing you should do is click that subscribe button down below and check out this video over here where I dive deep into Mr. Beast's tax situation, okay? Because as a YouTube creator, Mr. Beast, one of the most popular ones right now, he's got a wild tax situation. So if you want to learn about what it feels like to be a large creator when the tax man comes around, definitely check out that video. I'm sure you're going to learn a ton from it, and I will see you over there.